As men, how can we be better protectors?
They broke in to assassinate my father.
How can you be a warrior and a Christian?
Watching how humans react in life and death situations.
God and his universe are conspiring in your favor.
Masculine spiritual certainty is here to serve you.
People will misuse power and strength and masculinity to do wrong.
Masculinity is results driven.
Men struggle respecting themselves because they're not doing respectable things.
Power without a purpose is a problem.
We have to choose to be a king under him.
And we don't know who we are because we don't know whose we are.
When the time to perform has arrived, the time to prepare has passed. Gentlemen, welcome to the Formidable Family Man podcast. I'm your host, Greg Denning. This podcast exists, fellas, to help you become the best husband, father, business leader, philanthropist, and man you can be. Today, my guest is Sir Byron Rodgers, and we have an open, fun, honest, insightful conversation today about being a son of God, a king in God's kingdom, about the problems inside the church and Christianity, about the over-feminization of the church. We talk about how to fit in his kingdom and in the church and in the world with real masculinity and real power, and what it looks like to be a husband and a father and a leader in the community with real masculine power. And we talk about making mistakes and making changes and overcoming our weaknesses and failures and living in gratitude and joy and happiness, and how to really lean in and protect ourselves, protect our kids, protect our wives, protect our home and our family, our legacy, and to be true, formidable family men. Enjoy this episode. All right, brother. Super excited to have you here, man. I've been looking forward to this conversation and all kinds of different directions we can go, but why don't you introduce yourself to the audience, give us a bit of your story, and we'll start from there.
Outstanding. Boom. What's up, you guys? Byron Rodgers here. And I mean, really, I'm just a man that's trying the best he can to really be a faithful son of God. I've been so blessed to go through the Marine Corps, 2 combat deployments, infantry. So I went to Iraq a few times. Got through there into professional protection, bodyguard work, by the grace of God, got into the industry at a very high level, hitting 50, 60 countries per year for the first 7 years of my career, starting in 2000 and 2008 when I got out of the Marine Corps. And then by the grace of God, a client looked at me and said, "Hey, I want you to be my guy. I'm going to put you in business. I want you to run security for my billionaire family." And so that's how my private security company started. We've been taking care of high net worth families and doing some pretty cool humanitarian missions since 2017 under that company. And then also I have a training company that focuses on creating professional protectors, guys that want to get out, transition from law enforcement, civilian life, or military into what I do. And then also a training company that focuses on civilians and making the world a safer place by helping good people to be more dangerous, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I love that.
Yeah, man. So that's a little bit about me. I got a master's in different things and published a book, and I'm a knight, different things like that. God's just been good, and I've just done the best I can not to mess it up and deliver. That's the game.
So already, brother, like so many experiences from so many different places around the world. And I'm sure you do too. I deeply value experience and exposure across the spectrum, right? From wealthy to poor, from war zones to peaceful places where they have almost no crime, just across the spectrum and across religions and cultures, because we can all learn so much. And yeah, in the last, 20 years, man, you've been in all kinds of environments and different situations to glean lessons from all of that.
Yeah, man. No, God's been good. And it all serves, man. Like, so now when I look at life and I listen to things people say, or things are hitting me, it's like he just gave me this experience of like an absolutely supercharged amount of experience, like perspective. That's what I'm saying. Like from being in war and watching how humans react in life and death situations. And, being able to understand, like, look, dude, like these guys we're fighting are just us. Like they're just little boys like us that grew up in a
Yeah.
different hood. And now we're
Right.
fighting. Like, what's this like to have these types of thoughts as we went through it, and then forgot to keep me. I had out of body experience. I got hit by a number of IEDs. I got blasted the last time and had to pray for a chance to come back to the planet, and God gave me that. And then, living with billionaires and millionaires and seeing the country and the world. I've probably been to 80 countries and operated in those countries, understood a little bit about the culture, enough to get a client through an operation. It's just, and it was literally all by the grace of God. My journey started out with me as a young man praying without being like, I don't even know where I can't depend on my parents. They're great people. I love them. I love my parents. Like to this day, I love my parents, but like they did the best they could. And that's the beauty and the tragedy of parenting. They're all, we, they, them, everyone, we're just all doing the best we can, buddy,
That's right.
So,
Exactly.
I had that at a young age. I was like, Father, guide me. I don't know where I'm going to get lunch. And he has, man, he's been the perfect.
So I was going to ask you, is that where your faith started?
Yeah.
As a young
Yeah.
man, you started praying and kind of needing some help from heaven?
Yeah. That's really where it started. I remember an assignment when I was in like, I don't know, it must have been first grade, kindergarten or something. Not first grade or kindergarten, but I was young. And I remember them being like, hey, like, who do you look up for? Like, let's make a little picture thing of who the people you look up for. Here's some magazines and cut out pictures or and I remember being like, I remember feeling like maybe they're going to think I'm, like, I don't know if this is a socially acceptable. I remember feeling pressure because I was really struggling because I was like, my dad is a superhuman character. So like, my dad is like Tony Montana mixed with Donald Trump and like a big island guy, who's like successful in business, got shot at point blank range with a shotgun because he started the first private security reaction force. Like he's just that guy, not because he did that, but he got, so my dad's like this larger than life character. And I remember being like, well, that made it hard for me to look up to a lot of guys, and a lot of guys in church. I was like, seem like a nice guy, but like, I can't look up to you. And so I remember at a young age just being like, my Heavenly Father, the Holy Spirit. And my dad wasn't in my life, because, all the things. And I remember being like, Father in heaven, like, I need your help because I'm growing up with my mom primarily in Washington State. Dad's in the Bahamas. And that's when I started to look at the Holy Spirit as my father, my guide, my friend. And that's when he started guiding me. And
did you
I could tell you stories, man.
Did that have a major impact on the course of your life, or were you always faithful? Were you always dependent on him? Did you stick with it through the thick and thin and the craziness of it all?
It's a beautiful question because people need to understand this. So the Holy Spirit was with me from the age of 5 when I heard his voice in an almost audible way and stopped my family from suffering an assassination attempt on my father. Legitimately was like sitting on the couch, like trying to go to sleep. The Holy Spirit was like, don't go to sleep. Go in your dad's room and lock the door. And I argued and was like, no, like I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable. I want to sleep on the couch, and lost the argument, of course, fine. If you're not going to let me sleep on the couch, I'll go in my dad's room. Little 5-year-old, And I remember this story with Samuel, like next time you hear that voice, say, God, I'm here, I'm listening. Right. And I just learned it in Bible school in my little Sunday class, so this happens. And then of course, it's a longer story, but eventually guys break in, they break in. I wake up to the door to my dad's room being picked and there's a bunch of dudes in the house. We got them on camera. They broke in to assassinate my father because he started that tactical team in the Bahamas. Mm-hmm. So having legitimate Holy Spirit guidance and experiences at that age, and then living my life, and God guiding me through my life. And then still, when I get through the Marine Corps, getting blown up, massive experiences with God. But then getting out of the Marine Corps, going into my God phase where I was like, I'm going to be God. Like, I'm going to meet my needs. Like, I still love you, Jesus. Like, check it out. Like, we're cool. I love you. But like, yeah, like I'm making my money now, like, and then God literally being like, hey, I get out of the Marine Corps and I'm afraid. And I'm like, dude, what am I going to do? How am I going to make money? How am I going to become respectable? I pray. God literally tells me what to do. He says, go to this bar, go to Hennessy's Tavern in Dana Point, become a bouncer. I'm going to make you a bodyguard. You're going to travel the world. Like, I walk into the living room. You know, my girl at the time is looking at me. I'm excited. She's like, why are you happy? Like, what are we going to do? I'm like, I know what's going to happen. I know this voice. I know what's going to happen. Yeah. And she's like, huh? And I'm like, I got to go bounce at Hennessy's Tavern. I'm going to become a bodyguard. I'm going to travel the world. She laughs at me, tells me I can't do it. I say the most Jesus-y thing I've ever said in my life, which I'm still proud of to this day. Listen, I know this voice. It saved my life in Iraq. All I ask is that when it happens exactly how I'm telling you it happens, is that you believe. It was a beautiful moment in my life. Dude randomly, not so randomly recruits me. This is going somewhere. Trust me, this is I'm kind of a long answer guy, but this is going somewhere. So God now gives me a stratospheric victory. 3 months into bouncing, I get recruited into one of the top EP details, protection details in the state of California, 50, 60 countries a year, top of the line detail. I'm 21 years old, way too young to be doing, not too young, but like, you know, and it's the favor of God in my life. I still had to go through my own, I'm going to do all the drugs, all the women, all around the world, trying to meet my own needs as a man, trying to be God to myself, and had to do that dance and fall and realize I'm not a good God and resurrender to him multiple times.
To him.
And then once I did, my life just even more just took off. Adventure more than I could have ever asked for.
Yeah. Oh man, that's
so yeah, God was with me, but I still did all the things. I'm chief among sinners, all the things, and he never left me. Never left me during all that.
And it's, well, like hearing your stories, I tell people all the time that God and his universe are conspiring in your favor. Like he's opening doors and doing things like you couldn't possibly dream up the stuff he has in store. But like you said, sometimes we walk away from him. We're not conspiring in our own favor. And so he's ready to bless us and help us and guide us. And we're like, nah, I got this. And I'm over here like messing with sandcastles.
Yeah, bro. Like playing God. Like my biggest issue was literally being like, Father, I can't live like how you want me to live. Like I can't be like the happy wife, happy life, nice church guy. Like I'm a warrior that's trying to be normal. I just got back from Iraq. Like, you know, I remember being like, there's no way I can be the kind of guy that I think you're asking me to be based on what I've seen at church.
What you're saying, church. So, let's talk about that. Keep going.
Right? We'll dig. And so I remember being like, I need to go fast. I feel like a Lamborghini forced to drive in a school zone for the rest of my life. Like Nerf for the rest of my life. Like I'm going to kill myself like all my homies. Like this is, and I remember God being like, hey, I wouldn't ask you. A few things happened in there, but we'll get into it, I'm sure. I wouldn't ask you to do something that you were capable of. Like, and I remember being like, and he showed me the path that I was going down and the destruction that was there. It's like, you can continue to try to be God, but like, how are the people around you surviving you right now trying to be God? Like, and I just knew I'd lose everything. And then he was like, make room for me. And I just finally decided, okay, God, if you're God, this is going to be all you. I'm going to do things your way and we'll see what happens. And, and even in the men that I interview and talk with, there's a level of wholesomeness. There's a level of adventure that I could have never imagined, ever. You know, I live a reality that is above the natural, that is supernatural in nature because of that yielding and inviting in a supernatural father, which now I express that in the world. It's just the coolest thing. And it's not because of me, it's because, you know, of yielding to that. And I feel bad for any man that hasn't tapped into that, like real
power,
your real heavenly last name, like who you really were created to be.
Yeah, it's so powerful, so beautiful. Hey, let's tap in to what you said there, because we get this image sometimes of what it means to be a churchgoer, to be in the church, to be a good Christian, and even at a young age, you were just like, oh man,
I was like, guys,
I can't do that. And it's so powerful, so important, because if that's our image, like if we look at that and like this is what it means, I'm
Yeah.
out. I'm out.
Like, this
So
isn't masculine. Like, I don't respect
yeah.
this.
So how did you? Okay, first of all, what did you see, and what do you still see, and then how did you resolve
Yeah.
it? How can you be a
Yeah.
warrior and a Christian?
Yep. And what I saw, what I experienced, I told you guys my dad experience and concept. And then the reality that inside, I just know I was a warrior. Anointing, office, calling, everything in me has always been a warrior. And I've always been like, Father, how can I, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Like, how can this serve, you know? And he's been faithful to just raise me in understanding the absolute honor it is to serve as a warrior. You can't just identify as a warrior. This is a path. But anyways, um, my my experience was dismal because church was super feminized. And so I remember always looking in church for men that I could respect, as both, you know, a warrior and also as a man of God. And I had a lot of trouble. And I did find, you know, one, and I grew up in Casey Treat's house, like in his home. This is a pastor in Washington State. And of course, every pastor goes through things. But when I was there, I remember seeing him, and I remember being like, he was the one man that stood out as like, you know, he is a king in his home, and he's respected, and he was firm, and I remember that was one guy, and you know, I got spanked because I was running around with his kids back in the day, like, and it was like, I just remember being like, wow, this can be done. But, you know, to make a long story short, that was what I ran from in church. I ran from all the other happy, Heidi-ho, neighbor, happy wife, happy life, soft men that I saw there. And I was like, I don't think this is a place for me. And a lot of men do. And the way I reconciled that was two ways. One, my first client was a massive evangelical ministry. So I know church. Like, I grew up in church. I was forced to watch 4 sermons every day before going to Christian school, before being at church Thursday for choir practice, Saturday, 3 times on Sunday. Like, I had heard more churches by the time I was a teen than most pastors. Like, but it's been such a blessing, but I know the game. And then my first client being a massive evangelical ministry, I was at church all the time. I got to see the business at church, all the churches around the world, and it culminates into a moment.
Oh, so you were doing security for a big evangelical church. Yeah, ministry. Oh, wow.
And it culminates into a moment where I'm like, Father, I don't want anything to do with these people. Like, you can't trust them. They're weak. These men are like pathetic. I just came back from war. I see no one here that I could really respect. And he said, don't ever judge me based on humans again. And I was like, he's like, look at you. He's like, bruh. He's like it was like at the disgust, like, do you not know better? Have we not been doing this long enough? He's like, don't ever judge me based on other people, on people's performance. And that was like, he was like, what we have is a relationship. Like, this is me and you. This is a relationship. Don't ever judge me on these people again. And if you're so good, bring that back to my body. That was the first thing. The second thing that destroyed all of that was I know the Bible. I read the Bible. And in the Bible, there are copious examples of mighty men of valor.
Yep.
There are
mighty men.
There are copious examples of masculine, fearless, selfless servant leaders, all the way up to Jesus Christ himself. The only way you think that Jesus is a nice guy and not a good man is because you literally just haven't read the words in red. Like, you went to church and you listened to them tell you about how loving he is and what they want you to believe about him. But he continually showed masculine forms of love and accountability and firmness and strength. People reacted to him as a strong man. The disciples, multiple occasions, were like, no, you tell Jesus we forgot the fishes. Or no, you wake Jesus up. There's a storm going on. No, you wake Jesus. And the authority he walked in is demonstrated in the scriptures. And my favorite verse, and no one asked Jesus a question in that town ever again. Yeah, I'm saying. Anyways, so I'm a long answer, guys. So let me know if you want me to like.
A revolutionist, and he was a nonconformist, and like contrarian to all the things that were broken and all the really, quote, righteous religious people. He's like, no, this is a joke. And his words were just blunt. It was one of my favorite things. He says he was an austere man.
Yeah.
And he was a man. I love that. Okay. So now you've come to a place where you feel comfortable being a very masculine warrior inside the kingdom. And does it ever make people uncomfortable?
Yeah, it's not without its violence, which is great. And I've actually found that I have to deal with like a strong feminine resistance or a Jezebelian type of resistance in most cases. And so when I have been challenged in church environments, it's really not usually the man. The men usually find me to be, by the grace of God, find what I carry in the way out impact and atmosphere to be inspirational and useful.
Sure.
Like they want me to come in, like they're like, yeah, come on, let's do some stuff. You want to lead, you want to do something, you want to, like, they're like, let's join forces. Even if they don't carry that, it's the females, the strong females that just feel the need to try to knock that down.
Because they want
the need to challenge.
They want the femininity, and sometimes they feel threatened by the masculinity. Yeah,
100% they do. And I'll do everything I can to prove to them that energy is here, that masculinity, that masculine spiritual certainty is here to serve you, is here to protect and provide and demonstrate God's glory in a way that only a man can by the glory of God.
Love it.
But I think what ends up happening is they start to worry about like their husbands catching a little bit of it, and they start to worry about all the, like, how are we going to stay in charge with these guys, man? They're out here just, and it's like, well, we're here to serve you in the way we were designed to serve you. And a lot of that has to do with leadership, but I have such a heart for it. My mom raised me, and I get it. They have their wounds, their fears, and their experiences. And so a strong man to a lot of them, validated through trauma, especially if they're still living through that, is dangerous to them.
Well, right. And misdirected. Yep. Misdirected strength and rested. I love the word rested. It's WREST. It's twisted. It's distorted. So this rested masculinity, it's terrible. It mistreats women. So it gives them reason to fear. I've heard you teach that masculinity is proven by results. That
we love each other on this one, man. It's so good.
Expound on that. Talk about that. Because the one thing I'm always saying is like results don't lie. Results don't lie. I live by that, and I teach it all the time.
Bro, I heard you say it the other day, and it inspired me, and then I went on a tangent about it. So you were like, my results. I was like, get them.
Yeah.
I personally think it's Jesus-y, man. It's super Jesus-y. By your fruit, you will know them.
Yes.
By their fruit, you will know them. I judge, but I don't condemn. You got pears going on, you're a pear tree. You got apples going on, that's an apple tree. Now, I'm not God. I'm not saying whether you get to heaven or not. But in terms of where you line up in my life, the level of the proximity I allow with me, my family, all these things, it's very much fruit driven. And so when it comes to masculinity, I also believe it's very much fruit driven. Based on results, we understand the principles that you're running are powerful or not. And as a man, one of the biggest things for me in Christianity was and one of the biggest problems I had with church was there was no power. There's no power. These people come into this building doing emotional P90X emotional calisthenics you know what I mean? And there was just no power. And I would travel the world, and I would go to at least hundreds of churches a year. And I would come back to the same churches every year, and I'd look around, and these people are in the same place doing the same emotional P90X.
Yeah.
Yeah, like every Sunday. And they're like frequent flyers. They're just here for the emotion, for the dopamine. And so I've always kind of been like, Father, and don't get me wrong, like this drive hasn't always been a good thing, but I think a lot of men have this drive. It's what drove me to drugs, and it's what drove me to working out. And it's what drove me is I need to know that what I'm doing is going to have an impact, right? Like I'm going to do what's going to help me acquire power. Now, in the masculine spectrum of things, understand power without a purpose is a problem. Okay. And I think this is an equation that a lot of young men are you get power almost by age, you start to become strong and you don't understand the purpose that's there to serve people on some high levels that God's given you then it becomes a problem. Now we have men shooting and raping and doing all these crazy things, right? But when you're acquiring this power to make it serve, it's amazing. And so when I look at my life and I look at the way that I'm trying to lead men, I feel so blessed that God's, given me the tools and the fruits to say, hey, this is what the glory of God looks like. I'm so blessed to say it's my responsibility to be obedient, but I'm not responsible for this is God working in me. You know what I mean? And I'm so blessed to be able to say like masculinity is results driven. It's not based on your feelings. And it's our job to demonstrate that. And when you walk into the room and you're strong and you're healthy and your family's okay, and it's not always going to be like that. You'll have your battles, but how do you go through that battles? Let's see some results, homie. Your medal's just getting tested right now. Let's see your results.
That's right.
It's a gift, man. It's beauty.
I love that. Brother, I crazy love that. Well, and that's my whole thing is the formidable family man, and to be formidable, to be powerful, to be dangerous in the best way possible. And even some of the things you were just mentioning there is people will misuse power and strength and masculinity to do wrong. And because that very thing exists, you and I, we have to be powerful to protect. We have to be powerful to serve. We have to be formidable and dangerous.
100%. And we have to rebrand it for Christianity, I believe. It's been really cool to see the people that God's been bringing into my life now, these strong juggernauts for Jesus. All of a sudden, there's just a tide has changed. The winds have changed to where now I'm being surrounded by these eagles, these other lions, a lot of strong, formidable men that have the same vision, and we're all starting to work together to raise this next generation of men that have been so targeted, and they're starting to realize it. And there's this pendulum that's swinging, because usually it's just kind of like me, and I'm flying around doing my thing, but now it's I'm seeing all these other eagles, and it's we're creating this it's like X-Men. It's like the Avengers, and I'm where'd you come from? I'm bro, do you know what I had to do to get up here? And they're I had to do the same thing. And I'm whoa, that's great. I get chills thinking about it. It's super exciting. But we're rebranding it, man. This is, I think now, this brand of masculinity is what the glory of God looks like in a man. The Bible says, glorify God in your body. Be fit, be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of. And we're transformed, that soul issue, all these soul things, you have to work them out and gain the dominion God has over them, and operating by the Spirit. If you haven't built your spirit, if you're not walking with God and at that level where your spirit man is mature, you're not really a fully developed man. And I served with men that are better than me, that both died in Iraq, but also took their own lives. When we're talking about macho masculine stuff, I lost more friends to the civilian aspect of life, to the civilian sector, than I did in combat. And to me, that was one of the biggest indicators that being a real man it wasn't just because I went to war. It had to do with how I developed into my soul, mind, will, and emotion realm of life, which is where you find the difference between strength and power, right? My physical body gives me strength. Cool. This house is safe because I'm here on some levels. But then in the soul realm, I start to realize that I have power and influence as I build businesses and unify men in a certain direction. And then that spirit level, man, when now you have authority in the earth and God gives you the power to get wealth, to succeed, to protect your children from those nightmares, to shift atmospheres. And if you're not walking in maturity in all three of those levels, man, I can't.
You're missing out, and you're underdeveloped.
You're underdeveloped, bro. There's levels, man. It's beautiful.
Super appreciate this. So the logo I created in this whole framework it's the triple trifecta, right? It's the ways to win, and the first one is fitness, but it's not physical fitness. It's mind, body, and spirit. It's you've got to be mentally fit, and character and emotions. You have to be spiritually fit, right? The integrity, the growth, the
100%.
connection and relationship with God, and you got to be physically fit. It's the whole man. And if you leave one off, you're going to miss it. Like, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So give me some specifics, brother, for you. Like, when you think about the fruits, and I loved how you're talking about that. I was like, look, there's pears, there's pears. There's apples, there's apples.
Yep.
But what are some of the specifics? So it's really palpable for people listening.
Yeah.
What are some of those fruits you see in a very, a manly man, a formidable man?
I would say that, you can look at his kingdom and you can tell that he's walking in that level of dominion. So he's on purpose. He's doing something in this earth that is his mission from God, right? And at times it might be your job, but I think as you get more into the kingdom, God's going to give you something to birth into this earth. That's going to be a kingdom work, because while you're at a day job, you're giving the best of you. You're giving the best of your time, 9 to 5, Friday to Monday. You're giving the best of your focus, your energy, all these things. And I think eventually you kind of graduate to a place where you're birthing a brand, you're birthing an organization that's serving on a high level, and you're furthering kingdom initiatives in some way. I think that's a sign of maturity. And Christ is the King of Kings, and we're the kings that he's the king of, in the kingdom that we're building here, right? So he has.
Oh, brother, I love that. Oh my goodness, he's the King of Kings. And we have to choose to be a king under him.
In the kingdom. Yeah.
A lot of us are playing like little pawns, or we're watching from the sidelines. We're not even participating. And 100%, we're not being a king in our own kingdoms.
100%, man. And we're afraid to step in because we don't know who we are, because we don't know whose we are. And we don't know the authority that he has for us, man. And so another massive one is he has that soul level of dominion. So, wife, family, situations, scenarios, things are acting on him, but he is able to operate. He's not reactive. He has a high level of emotional intelligence. This would be the way the world would say it, right? So things are acting upon him, and you know exactly where you're at when stress comes, if you go into faith or fear, right? Because that really quite literally tells you what kingdom you're really, really building, right? Are you playing it safe? Are you protecting yourself? Are you protecting your ego? Or are you able to sit with something and find a way to get yourself into trust in Father? No. I know what's going to happen here because I know whose I am. I know what's going to happen here because I know what my Father says about this. I know what my Father says about me, right? People in every area of your life will challenge you.
How do you know that?
Right.
Like, how do you know that?
How do you know that, right? No, because you're doing the work, the spiritual disciplines, man, spirit. And so we're talking about implementation, so on that soul level, the spiritual disciplines are what you read the word, which is helping you identify and understand and integrate the character of God, demonstrations of the power of God, the patterns of masculinity with God. As you see, like I read the Psalms all the time, and I'm learning from David and his heart posture towards God and the way that God works with him and his imperfections and what God says. Like, the word is so awesome because it's literally like in a book. This is God, right? And then you're praying and you're worshiping and you're having contact with him, which is giving you proximity to him that you can. The way I interact with my wife is informed by the way I see God interacting with me, as he's helping me become a better man as I'm struggling
and with our children.
And with our children. Yeah. So you learn fatherhood and husbandry, whatever it is, from your proximity and relationship with him. And so this helps you master the soul realm. The things that I struggled with 3, 4, 5 years ago, I'm not struggling with as much because of those spiritual disciplines and the proximity I have with the Father. My wife doesn't control me. The reason this whole thing still exists is because God has been able to get a hold of my heart, and I live to represent him in the world, which causes me to be a better father, a better husband, a better businessman, a better all these things. Yep. And so the fruit of that is, you see, it's not necessarily that everything's always perfect. You're going to go through your trials, but there's a way of walking through these things that is love, faith, servanthood, strength, and dominion. And then ultimately, you'll see that a man that is respectable organically has respect in a lot of different circles.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
at home, yes. In the marketplace, yes. But I don't, but there's times when, I've had to earn these people's respect, right? And I had to just be respectable,
Yeah. Well,
I,
and that's
I
how it
like,
is.
yeah,
Respect is earned even for ourselves. In fact, it starts with
yeah,
ourselves. Like a lot of men
100%.
struggle respecting themselves because they're not doing respectable things.
They're
And so
right
when
about
we,
themselves.
yeah, exactly. And so when we step that up, I think you
Uh,
articulated so well. One of the fruits of pure, beautiful masculinity is progress. We're
Progress, that's
making a
huge.
change. I'm not struggling with the things I was struggling with before. Because you and I, like, we have no business being the same man this year that we were last year. We've
I think so.
got to be moving forward.
Yep.
That's
And I
that's
don't
the
care
fruits
how
of
good you were
masculinity,
last year. Yeah,
right?
100%. 100%.
Exactly.
100%. I was having this conversation because I talked to someone else who said like men feel like they're never good enough. And I was like chewing on it and I was chewing on it and I didn't want to directly oppose the guy because of the context of the conversation. But I was like, I don't. So they say God will never put on you more than you can bear. But the interesting thing is, I've got no idea what I can
Right.
bear. And as my
Exactly.
father, he has the task of helping me to be more and more like him. The same way I look at my son, my new Marines, certain employees, now I've got to bring out of them this potential that I know from experiences in them. He's looking at me like I've got to bring God out in this guy. I know it's in there. And so I trust and I push and try to give the widow's mite, if you will, this imperfect vessel and make it as good as I can to give him a higher quality, offering essentially to
Yeah.
do something with. But it's really cool when you start thinking, I was like, no, I don't know what's good enough because he's going to be the one to ultimately
Right.
tell me that. And we're going to keep taking
Yeah.
territory.
I love that, and I'm right with you on that, brother. I think it's like in my mind, I've never arrived. In fact, I
Never.
told my wife, I'm like, babe, I will never ask you to love me for who I am because I do not plan
Literally,
on
bro.
staying here. I am not
Yeah,
staying.
yeah.
And we can either level up or level off. And that kind of like, oh, I'm not good enough. It's this leveling off attitude, and nobody ever coasted to the top. And God will not let us coast. So if we hand over our hearts, like he's going to draw so much more out of us than we think we're capable of.
And you literally can't listen to the world. Like the world will be like, you're special just for being here. Like you can't listen, bro.
Right.
Don't. I mean, even
No.
your mama might try to tell you you're special. But
Right.
don't listen to them, bro. Go hang out with the boys and start pushing,
That's
bro.
right.
Start pushing.
Let
You know what I'm
somebody
saying?
smack
I
you
love it.
around a little bit.
Yeah,
I
man.
love
Let's
it.
go.
Okay, let's shift gears a little bit. I gotta ask, because of your background, we gotta talk a little bit about protection, and
Absolutely.
protecting our families. So just give us a quick rundown, man, because you've been in this for so long and you've seen it from so many angles. As men, how can we be better protectors?
Yeah. I think that so much of masculinity and so much of the formidableness that God that makes him happy and that we see in various men of God throughout the Bible, David, Gideon, I mean, John the Baptist, all these guys, is a lot of it starts in the realm of physicality. How
Yes.
good of a steward are you being with physicality, your first physical enterprise? Let man have dominion down here. God and Satan both need bodies to execute down here. So the quality of your offering, in terms of your physicality is massive. And with the values and habits and character traits that come with developing that physicality comes a stronger mind. I'm in the
Mhm.
gym praying most of the time. I'm in the gym praying and talking to God and, Father, I thank you that you've given me the strength, Father. Almost before I lift almost anything heavy, I'm like, thank you for giving me the strength. I'm just giving him thanks. To him who has more will be given, and to him who doesn't have, even which he has will be taken from him
Yeah.
and given to him who has, right? So I sit there and that's an act of worship. That is connection time with my Father. Um, and then we get into just the reality of the Garden of Eden Like Satan was permitted to walk into the garden and kick it with Eve and talk to Eve. And the Bible says the man that was there with her, she handed the fruit to the man who was there with her. So the next thing for me, especially on a spiritual level, is I'm watching what is entering my home. And
Yes.
God has anointed us and given us the office of protection. And so making sure the eye gates and the ear gates and the environments and even gifts that are given to my family, these things are sanctified and or like meet the discernment test. It's huge.
Yes.
And you will have to tell your wife, kid, son, whoever it is, hey, I love you with all my heart, but I'm sorry you can't watch this. As for me,
That's not coming in.
because from the bottom of my heart, I feel like God wouldn't be happy with this. I can't do it. And I'm responsible. He's not going to walk into the garden and ask for Eve. He's going to ask for me. So that's
I
a level of
love that,
protection I think
brother.
is not talked about.
Yes.
And you'll have to fight the hyenas at the gates around the pack of lions, and sometimes you'll have to fight the lions at the same time to protect, Christ's precepts in your home. And do it. So, those are two big things. Go ahead.
Those are and even the Bible talks about that. Fear the things that can hurt the body, but fear the things most that can hurt the soul, right? And that's true. We have to be protecting the media, the content, the attitudes, even the fighting, the dynamics in the home, the family legacy, all that stuff. There's a lot of men could use some help with the physical protection.
Practical. Right.
The practical. And it comes with skill sets. You know this because you live it and you teach it.
Right.
Let's talk for a minute about skill development. Like if you pick a skill and you want to acquire a skill, talk about the price tag that comes on a skill.
Yeah. And I think having a realistic understanding of that is massive. Like, a lot of guys will get into the gym, martial arts, whatever it is, and they'll act like they'll want to see results. And the reality of this game, competitive shooting, whatever it is, the reality of anything, and when it comes to skill building, my advice is just choose to do this for at least 5 years. Understand that mastery is going to take about 10 years, and just be a white belt, man. Be a white belt and create and act from that space, So like, with my skills, I've moved through the hand-to-hand stuff, but what I've really been into a lot is just the competitive shooting realm. And I'm a pretty decently qualified competitive shooter, but as I've been submitting to that process, there's no way to rush. You just have to play your position, right? Same thing as in the gym, same thing as any of these skills. You have to go on a mature pathway to progress and understand where you're at. If you get in the gym and you start trying to lift too much weight, you're going to injure yourself. If you get out there and you're in competition and you're trying to go too fast, you're not going to hit any of the targets. If you get on the mats and you try to operate at a level you can't operate, it's going to be a rough day of getting choked out. And, and you're going to learn, and that honor system in that dojo or in that mat room is going to go on ahead and make sure you understand where you really, really are. But what's so precious about these places where skills are developed is they keep you honest. They keep you honest because 315 pounds is always 315 pounds. When I go to the mats, I'm going to know where I really actually stack up. When that beeper sounds and I get done running my string of fire, I'm going to know this is how accurate and this is how fast you were
how
today.
Fast. Exactly.
And the reality is, this is what protects you from arrogance. And arrogance is inaccurate confidence. Confidence comes from experience, and experience with yourself and your God. And these places make you a real man because you become accurate in your understanding of who you are and what you can do.
As long as you stay in it, you keep getting a reality check, right? Because none of us live at the level of our hopes. We live at the level of our habits, right? So I can think I'm so fast and so strong and I'm so tough, and then man, I can just get smoked.
Yep. And it's not even a bad thing, man. It's like when you're really in it, you start to appreciate it. You can go to the mats and get wrecked, and it's a whole nother love language. It protects you against being arrogant, but you're still light years ahead of everybody who didn't go get choked out that day.
That's
You know what I
right.
mean? Like, there's two types of people that have mouthpieces and people that don't. And there's a
That's right.
version of you get to know when you step into these places. And it's not a version of you already know if you don't step into these places. And you want to get to know this version of you before you're on the streets finding out about this version of you, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
this is
That's
the path to
place you ever
becoming
want to find
formidable.
out.
Yeah, man.
You want to get, you want to have all your weaknesses and
exposed.
You want them all exposed in a safe place, in the gym, not on the streets when there's higher stakes. One thing
100%.
that comes to mind as you're talking about this is just sheer volume of reps. I mean, the amount of rounds that need to go through your firearms to improve proficiency and speed.
Yeah.
The amount of drills we have to do until it becomes automatic. Volume matters so much.
So much because the maturation process happens in volume. The amount of times you got to get choked out and the amount of times you got to shoot, the amount of to really even be able to have a mature conversation about the tool, the capability, or the skill. And I would also, not to go too far back into the spiritual, but that's what I learned this multiple times with God as I've gone through desert periods of my life where I've been relying on him. Every time what he's doing is he's helping me understand the dependability of his identity and thus my ability to impact reality with him. And so like when it comes to skill building, you guys, and when it comes to leaning into becoming a formidable man in reality, which I still think it's close to first, like the level of certainty you can walk around with in your abilities and calmness and genuineness is, I think, directly attached in so many ways to your level of physical formidability. Like it impacts these other things. Otherwise, you're the guy who's just so in the spirit, but like people are looking at you and you just don't have all the fruit, and this isn't about being macho. It's not about having all the tattoos. It's not about being a jacked guy. It's about just knowing what you're capable of. And I think you nailed it, man, with progress. Knowing that, you know what? This week I'm a little better than I was yesterday, last week.
Exactly.
And then you stack that for 3, 4, 10 years, bro, you're operating at a level. The areas of my life that I've done that, I'm operating at a level that people think is a miracle, but it's just what happens it's the way God created reality to stay in the game.
Because results don't lie.
They don't. Oh, they tell the truth.
Man, I love that. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm just going to ask some random fun questions because your life experience is so unique. There's some lessons there that none of the rest of us are going to have that I want to kind of glean from. Just a random question here. Favorite weapon. You have to have a weapon. Favorite weapon. A knife, a handgun, a dog.
Well, it's
mine's
interesting.
My dog
really? That's interesting.
Fixed blade.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a firearm guy. I am most dangerous with a pistol. That's like I can do the most with a pistol. That's where I operate at a level that most humans don't.
Love it.
As you see by the scores and all that stuff. But the most formidable weapon for me would be my AR, man. Like I can do so much with it.
Yeah,
I can do so much with that thing. It's awesome.
Yeah. I don't have the permissions you do to have it when traveling around the world. So I gotta have other ones. Okay, cool.
Yep.
That's good. What caliber handgun? Just out of curiosity. Okay.
Yeah.
A certain brand that you love?
Yes. Man, why are they not coming to me right now? It's because I'm having a oh my goodness, I might have to. I have them on me right here. Oh man, what are my guys? It's not on here. It's not on the actual round. Anyways, so I'm gonna have to get you the answer by the end of this thing because these guys are awesome. They're Christians. G9,
very cool.
G9 ammo, bro. G9. So these guys are Christians. They're good men. My man who created the ammo, he said, God told me this design. And this has become, I don't know if I can show you this on here, if you'll get banned or anything.
No,
but
man.
The design of the projectile, hollow points have been kind of all the craze.
Yeah, it's unique. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is the future of ammo technology, because
Wow,
this
very
actually
cool.
stays together, penetrates a lot more than other ammunition does, a lot more, and causes a larger wound cavity. G9 ammo is where it's at, Christian based. And I would also
Oh,
say the
that's
reason
super cool.
9 is because we're practicing a lot. I found that guys that have larger calibers don't be really practicing that much. That's
Yeah,
just my,
it's
I
too
don't know.
expensive.
Maybe, maybe not.
You go with the
It
bigger
is.
caliber, like that's a really expensive training day.
Yeah, bro.
Okay, let's shift gears now. In
Solid.
your work with like protecting, the big church and the ministries and the millionaires and billionaires and close to 80 countries. You don't, and so I've traveled with my family to close to 70 countries.
Your
You don't get
family.
around,
Wow.
yeah, with my
Wow,
family.
that's
It's
awesome.
been
Well
amazing,
done,
and
bro.
I
What an
love the world, and I love what I
yeah.
learned from it, and the connections, the people, the places, God's beautiful creation. It's amazing. But you don't travel that much. You
What
don't
a
get around
gift.
that many people without some experiences that teach you something. So tell us some stories or some big lessons, some takeaways over these years of unique. You've had a very unique opportunity. What are some big experiences or lessons that came from that would be beneficial for us as men to be like, we're not likely to have that experience, but there's a lesson, I think, for all of us.
One of the biggest ones that comes to mind pretty instantly is just culture. Like no matter what the culture is. So the sense of right and wrong, I think is in the heart of every man to a certain extent. But culture is a crazy thing. And there are things that are in cultures that they don't think are wrong. And you just have no idea. And so, like, in Iraq, we're clearing houses, and there were a couple times where we would, go out the back door and clear the rest of the yard. And there'd be like a kid on a string out there starving, getting eaten alive by flies. A kid, not a kid, like a infant, just out there, just getting eaten alive by flies because he'd been starved to death, suffering from brain damage. And we'd be like, how can they explain this? And so, you go back in the house and you're trying to save this kid's life, and you're just like, what's going on? And then the Iraqis are like, what's up? Like, what's wrong, bro? You want some chai? Well, you want some, and you're like, what are you doing? And they're like, yeah, he was like handicapped. Like, he's no good. Just put him back out there. And you're like, what are you talking? Like, this is a human. Like, this guy, this child, okay, he had something wrong with him, but you can't just, and those were some really tough moments where we, had to like accept the fact that like culture and, just because you do things a certain way or view things a certain way in your world, it
It's
just
not universal.
isn't really real to everyone else. So, those were different things, the way men treat women, different things like that. Like, just when you're in different places, you have to be very mindful of the different rules there. And in some cases, the different principalities and powers there and the spirit realms and the different rulers in high places over there, because there's different impacts and different atmospheres. That was a massive one for me. And I knew a lot of that because I've traveled since I was young. Let's see, what else would I say from traveling? That there's multiple layers in every reality, right? So when you go to an environment, there's the tourist layer, and then there's the reality that the people live. There's a subculture to even that, and understanding how to move through those different cultures is very valuable, really valuable, actually, depending on what's going on in that environment, understanding the social dynamics around being able to access those cultures and get those cultures to protect you or provide you with information, tools, access of multiple different types, huge. And I would say that the currency that is probably the most valuable in any culture is respect and honor. And if you can find a way to do that and be that, especially if you're a respectable human from a different culture where they look at you and you have various signals about you that say this is like a chief or a higher ranking respectable person from X culture, and you show respect to their culture, your respect then is even more amplified, right? And these things
Absolutely.
are like, if you're physically formidable and you seem, like you're a good person, they'll be like, your respect goes even farther now. Like, come on
Right.
inside, have some
Yeah,
real cooking
exactly.
and some real food. What do you need? How can I help you? Like, It's
I
interesting
love
to
that.
see these things.
Oh,
Yeah.
there's beautiful experiences, and then there's sad ones. Man, you're exactly right about the layers, and I would say this is probably in every society and every culture.
Yeah.
You don't realize it unless you're keenly aware of it, but you're
Right.
walking through layers. There's like the way to see it is like the cruise ship stops and they've put up this little facade, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
this is great. And two streets back, it's like where all the people really live.
Yeah,
And
where
then
they
two
really
streets
eat.
beyond that is where the crime is happening. And there's those layers of the facade, and then society, and then there's the darkness. And I've been able to help in some situations to try to rescue people and bring people out of dark places. And you literally arrive and go, through the layers to get back to those spots. And I think it's important for all of us as men to know that it's not obvious unless you're looking for it, but in every place, in every society, we are looking at layers.
Yep.
And to be aware of that.
Yep. And then to realize, I think in a lot of cases, God's developing you to operate whatever layer that he wants you to operate at. Like that, like if you're getting given more strength, like if you're developing strength and you might be getting called to a place where you need to fight more formidable enemies, darker areas.
100%.
Like you might have to slay a dragon. Like that's where we're going. You know what I mean? Like by the
Yeah,
grace of God,
for sure.
he might be
Yeah.
putting you in a position where, like if God's building your faith and calling you closer to him, and you're finding that you have to kill the lion, and then you got to kill the bear and all these different things at work, like that's because Goliath is somewhere in your path, bro. And God's preparing you. And so, that's why
You better have that slingshot ready. You
yeah,
better be
bro, like
perfected with that stone.
that's real. You could have just got anointed to be king of Israel, but you better go back out there and tend those sheep, and you better practice with your sling. Be faithful in what you've been given right now,
Yeah.
and that time will come. And then when the lion shows up, kill him the way God tells you. When the bear shows up, same thing, and that's masculinity, man. Was I diligent this morning with this day that you gave me, God? Like, did I, I woke up, God's been doing this thing where he's been waking me up at 3 a.m. So, and it was really cool. Like last week, it was more about warfare, and I would feel like a quickening in the spirit, get up, pray. And then this week, yesterday, it was like that too. There was something, boom, 00 in the morning, like on the dot, like surgical. I was like, okay, cool. And then this morning, I was like, dude, are you going to let me sleep tonight? And then this morning, it was totally a different vibe. Yesterday, it was like, burn the house down, pray, time to get into it, get deep. This morning, he was like, hey, man, want to hang out? Like, it was like, I know it's early, but like,
good morning, brother.
Like, want to just kind of hang out a little bit? And I was like, it felt very optional, and it was gentle. And I was like, yeah, I mean, yeah, let's get, man, I'll seek your face, man. Let's go. And every time there's a gift in there, so I don't know. It's the best way to live.
I love it. I feel like you were just saying, I feel God is calling me and calling many, many men to become assets, to be useful, to be helpful, to be prepared. And so I'll tell a quick story. I was doing triathlons for a while, and then we moved to Costa Rica, and I didn't know they were doing them. So I kind of took a break, and I was still, training, but not hard. And so then my buddy called, he's like, oh, there's this Xterra triathlon you want in? I'm like, of course I'm in, let's go. And this thing just wasted me, just beat me. I was not prepared. Oh man, big long swim in the hot, humid jungle, the hardest bike ride I've ever done in my life. It was brutal. My legs all cramped up, my hamstrings were seizing in Charlie horses, and I get back to the running station. I'm trying to put on my shoes, and my legs are all cramping up. It's terrible, and I'm trying to run. I feel like I'm running on noodles, and I fall down, and both my legs just seize up, and I was done. Like, I was cooked. I couldn't even finish the triathlon. While I'm laying there, this message just comes from heaven.
Yeah.
When the time to perform has arrived, the time to prepare has passed.
What?
And I try to live by that, and I try to share that message. Like, we need to be assets to our wives and to our children, to our communities. And when the time to perform arrives, the time to prepare has passed. And so we need to be up and diligent in being ready, capable men in God's quiver, ready to be called to his purposes to do good.
This is so big, man. And I'm right there with you, man. Like, I'm right there with you. Like, I'm training for a moment, and I know I'm going to know when that moment is. And the really cool thing is, like, you're tithing, like you're investing all these micro moments. Like, I'm at the gym this morning. I'm on my knees this morning. I'm at the gym this morning. And these are all the moments. It's really interesting. It's like, these are the moments that make all the difference. I remember when I was going to war, like, I was in the gym, I was training, I was out with the boys every moment I could, but this is what I'm doing now, because this is the war that we're engulfed in right now. And these moments, sowing, continuing to sow, like, all right, we're going to go hit the range. All right, we're going to the mats. All right, I'm on my knees. These micro moments of preparation are going to make it so that when Goliath shows up again, when Godzilla, whichever one we were doing this time, Loch Ness Monster, King Kong, whatever it is, when it comes, there's an investment that's been made. There's deposits there. I know who my God is, because every morning I was like, Father, I thank you to give me the strength. Father, help me to do this. And when things show up in the house, by the grace of God, we've been able to cast them down and cut them down. When financial things show up, like, we're constantly using this muscle of faith. We're constantly developing this experiential relationship with God, so that there are deposits there. And in my experience, this is how God's preparing us for this massive moment. And so that when that moment arrives, whether I'm at 7-Eleven and there's a shooting, or I got to get my family or my clients out, or it's just the next war or whatever happens, there are deposits that were made, man. And I love what you're saying, dude. I was saying the same thing this morning in the gym. I was like, I'm training for that moment, but I'm not letting any of these moments pass me by. I'm working the muscle of stepping in, and so God has something to work with on that day. And it's the widow's mite, giving the best I got, him giving me a little bit more. And when the day comes, it might be a sling and a stone, but that's what he's been sharpening this whole time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the same thing is true with our marriages and fatherhood. Like, literally what you just described there, making those deposits, showing up in those moments, being there for our wives, refining ourselves to be better listeners for her, and to be better examples. I was just thinking about, we all need to be asking ourselves the question as fathers, like, is my life worth emulating? Because that's exactly what my kids are doing.
It's so good. I was kicking that around today. I was like, you guys, and you already hit this once. I was like, you got to be respectable. Like, all this, like your wife and your kids should be watching you, the way you live and the way you romp around the house. They should be like, this guy, like, I can't do what this guy's doing. Like, this guy, he's the first one up. He's working on himself. The way he's reacting, the way he's fasted, the way that he's waking up in the morning, the way he's putting in work, the way he's, one of the most beautiful things in my life is my wife has watched me, because all I've had is the Lord. So I feel like I have an advantage, but like, all I had growing up was God, like, helping me figure out where I'm gonna get lunch, like, and walking me through these things. And
Same.
so, like, now it pays off so big, and blessed are you guys who haven't had that believe and that still walk it out, like, I feel so fortunate for having it. And so now the most beautiful things is my wife will hear me declare things, and she'll see us get challenged by things. And I'm like, well, God's going to work it out. And that means something now. And so now she gets to rest in the peace that passes all understanding in the eye of the storm, from seeing that demonstrated. And so what I'm saying is, let your family see you use these tools of prayer, supplication, fasting. Be the first example of how to worship God in front of them, demonstrate this spiritual walk, and let them see the fruit of that in you, and then it will make all the difference, man. They should be watching you, being like, I can't be like that guy. That's my dad.
Beautiful.
Like, I'm following this dude. So you won't need a Bible. You're respectable first and foremost.
Exactly.
And they can make a decision.
And man, what I hear you sharing is that you pray and depend on God, because everything depends on him, but you also get up and put in the work. like everything depends on you.
I say it all the time, man. You better pray to God like because he is your only salvation. He gives you the power to succeed, but you better work like he ain't coming. You know what I'm saying? And so when I got blown up,
Exactly. Yeah.
I said that to him. I said, Father, like if you give me another chance to live, I was like, I may never be all the things that you called me to be, but I promise if you send me back, I'm going to go so hard. I said, I'm going to go so hard in the paint. I am going to do the best I can to be everything that I may never get there, but I'm going to give everything I have. And so that's always been it. And you know what? That's what he blesses. That's what I have found he blesses. Like I'm trying to be as superhuman as possible. I just want to be a good steward with what he's given me.
Yep,
and that's
exactly.
and he shows up and meets me on the battlefield. And I'm like, let's go.
I love it. He always does.
He always
conspiring in our favor.
Yeah.
I love
all
that.
Things work together.
Okay, brother, this has been so awesome. I appreciate you so much. This has been a blast. Any last thoughts, any last words, any last message that we haven't touched on that you think, yeah, this is got to share it from my heart?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say I know that there's a high volume of men out there that have that are coming from kind of a deficit of masculinity, like they've been attacked biologically without realizing it because this dang endocrine disruptors and everything around us, there's estrogen in the water and birth control in the water, and like they don't realize, and they've been attacked. You maybe didn't have a dad, so your quality of life was dependent on female acceptance from your mom, feminine acceptance from your mom. So you've already been programmed like that. You went to school and you had female teachers, and so you're seeking acceptance from females there, and like you're in this world now, and you're trying to figure out, kind of find your way, and you see two masculine dudes appear, like a triathlon dude with a beard and a black tattoo muscle guy with a beard, and you're looking at us like, how could I ever be these guys? Like, this is so far from, and I just want you to know, man, like we all had to start somewhere by the grace of God, and there's no shame. You nailed it, Greg. You said progress, man. This is such a massive metric for how you're stewarding what you've been given as a man. So whether you're 300 pounds and 50 pounds, whatever it is, or you're just the smallest, weakest guy that in your mind that you come across, get started. Don't despise small beginnings, like the Bible says, and get in there and let God show you what he can do with you. I was a little fat, dyslexic mama's boy who I never, like, nothing was easy. I was not the fastest guy in the Marine Corps. And I remember just being like, well, I may never get there, but I'm gonna give him my best, and I'm gonna come back here tomorrow, and I'm gonna give him my best. And God is he just gonna see me giving my best till something happens. And then 5-10 years, you look back and dudes are looking at you like, how did you get this skill, this competence, these results, this fruit? And you're like, well, I guess I stayed in here long enough to be that guy what people are asking questions of now. And that's the magic, dude. So don't despise small beginnings. Just get in there and work on whatever the thing is that pains you the most. Do the thing you fear until the death of fear is certain. By the grace of God, you'll get there.
Oh, amen. Amen. That is awesome. Okay, I'm going to put in the show notes, I'll put all kinds of links and everything, but where do you want people to go to connect with you and learn from you, get into what you're offering?
Awesome. I'd say Instagram's the best place. That's where I post everything first, really. Do the most lives. So Byron Rodgers Actual. Rodgers with a D, BYRON RODGERS _actual.
Perfect. I'll throw that in there. Brother, I look forward to the day when you and I can get on a range and pull the trigger together and have some fun and do some other cool stuff. Connect with our families. Love you, brother. Thank you. Thanks for being here, man. Thanks for what you're doing and the message you're sharing and how you're leading and being a man and honoring God and showing men how to do that.
Thank you so much. Hey, thanks for having me, Greg. It's an honor to be here. And what a ministry, man. I'm just so blessed by knowing how I had to grow up with God leading me, and then seeing like guys like yourself doing these things. It's just so exciting, man. God is good. Thank you.
It's awesome. It's a good work.